Welcome back to our channel where we dive deep into topics of love, romance, and relationships rooted in faith. Today we're discussing a topic that might make some people blush, but it's so important and beautiful: sex in marriage according to the Bible. We all know how much intimacy can impact a relationship, especially a marriage, but what does the Bible say about sex? How can it foster not only physical closeness, but also a spiritual connection between a husband and wife? Today, we'll explore the biblical foundation for sex in marriage and God's divine design for passion, intimacy, and love. Let's break down the wisdom, love, and even the spiritual significance that sex holds within the sanctity of marriage. The sacredness of sex in marriage, God's divine design. First and foremost, it's essential to understand that sex within marriage is not only permissible according to the Bible, but it is holy, sacred, and divinely purposed. The Bible begins its teaching on marriage and sex as early as the book of Genesis, when God created Adam and Eve. Genesis chapter 2, verse 24 says, "Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." This verse describes the unity that happens between a husband and wife through sexual intimacy. God created sex as a beautiful and holy act, meant to reflect the unity and oneness between two people who have committed their lives to each other in marriage. Sex isn't just a physical act, it's a spiritual bond that deepens the connection between a husband and wife. From the beginning, God's design for sex has always been within the safety and sanctity of marriage. This means that sex is God's gift to married couples, allowing them to express love, create life, and experience the deepest form of intimacy. Sex and romance in the Song of Solomon. If you're looking for an entire book of the Bible that celebrates love, passion, and sexual intimacy, look no further than the Song of Solomon. This poetic book paints an incredible picture of romantic love and physical attraction between a husband and wife. It doesn't shy away from celebrating sexual intimacy in marriage. In fact, it exalts it. One of the most famous verses comes from Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verses 2 to 3. "Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is more delightful than wine. Pleasing is the fragrance of your perfumes. Your name is like perfume poured out." Throughout the book, we see tender affection, mutual admiration, and a celebration of the sexual union between two people who love each other deeply. Song of Solomon teaches us that romance and sexual desire are not something to be ashamed of within marriage. They are natural, God-given, and meant to be expressed passionately. A mutual pleasure in marriage. An important aspect of biblical teaching about sex in marriage is mutual pleasure and respect. Sex is not meant to be one-sided. The Bible emphasizes the idea that both partners should feel pleasure, satisfaction, and fulfillment in the sexual act. This is especially highlighted in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 3 to 5. The husband should give to his wife her conjugal rights, and likewise the wife to her husband. Do not deprive one another, except perhaps by agreement for a limited time, that you may devote yourselves to prayer, but then come together again, so that Satan may not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. These verses make it clear that both husband and wife have a responsibility to care for each other's needs sexually and emotionally. The Bible calls for a mutual giving in sex, highlighting that sex is not just about physical pleasure, but also about expressing love, devotion, and care for your spouse. In other words, God designed sex to be a selfless act, where both partners find joy in pleasing each other. When both husband and wife are focused on giving rather than just receiving, it strengthens the emotional and spiritual connection in the marriage. Avoiding sexual immorality. While sex is celebrated within the bonds of marriage, the Bible is clear about maintaining sexual purity outside of this context. Hebrews chapter 13 verse 4 says, "Marriage should be honored by all, and the marriage bed kept pure, for God will judge the adulterer and all the sexually immoral." This verse underscores the importance of faithfulness and purity within marriage. Sex is meant to be exclusive between a husband and wife, and any form of sexual immorality, such as adultery or premarital sex, goes against God's design. In a world that often distorts the meaning and purpose of sex, it's vital for married couples to stay committed and protect the sanctity of their sexual relationship. Keeping the marriage bed pure means honoring your spouse and upholding the spiritual and emotional significance of sex. Overcoming shame and guilt surrounding sex. Many people grow up feeling ashamed of sex due to cultural or religious misconceptions, but the Bible encourages us to see sex in marriage as pure, joyful, and good. In Genesis, after creating Adam and Eve, the Bible says they were naked and unashamed. This is important because it demonstrates that sex within marriage is meant to be experienced without shame or guilt. God created sex as a part of His divine plan, and He calls us to embrace it within marriage with joy and freedom. If shame or guilt from the past is affecting your view of sex in marriage, remember that through Christ we can find healing and restoration. Pray for guidance, seek spiritual counseling if needed, and focus on building a loving, healthy sexual relationship with your spouse. Open, honest communication is essential for maintaining a healthy sexual relationship in marriage. The Bible may not directly mention communication in terms of sex, but principles like love, kindness, and understanding are scattered throughout the scriptures, and they apply here as well. Ephesians chapter 4 verse 15 says, "Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of Him who is the head, that is Christ." Talking openly with your spouse about your desires, boundaries, and feelings creates a space for intimacy and trust to flourish. When you communicate, you're not just sharing your thoughts, but you're nurturing your emotional connection, which enhances your physical relationship. While one of the purposes of sex is procreation, the Bible also emphasizes that sex is meant for pleasure and connection. Proverbs chapter 5 verses 18 to 19 beautifully highlight the joy that comes from sexual intimacy in marriage. May your fountain be blessed, and may you rejoice in the wife of your youth, a loving doe, a graceful deer. May her breasts satisfy you always. May you ever be intoxicated with her love. Here we see the importance of sexual satisfaction and enjoying the intimate moments you share with your spouse. God designed sex not only to create life, but also to strengthen the emotional and physical bond between a husband and wife. Sex in marriage is not just a physical act, it is also a spiritual connection. As mentioned earlier in Genesis, the two become one flesh. This unification reflects not only emotional and physical intimacy, but a spiritual bond that draws you closer to God. Sex allows couples to reflect God's design for unity, commitment, and love. When approached with the right mindset, sex in marriage becomes an act of worship, a way to honor God through the love and connection shared between husband and wife. To sum it all up, the Bible's view of sex in marriage is clear, beautiful, and intentional. Sex is God's gift to married couples, designed to foster intimacy, procreation, and mutual pleasure. It is sacred, meant to be enjoyed without shame, and plays an essential role in building a strong, loving marriage. By following God's blueprint for sex in marriage, grounded in love, respect, and commitment, couples can experience deep spiritual, emotional, and physical fulfillment. If you're looking for more ways to strengthen your marriage and understand God's vision for love and intimacy, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more faith-based relationship content.